evening. Good to have you with us at the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, for the past 1 hour, we've been bringing to you stories of the pain and the plight, the struggle of the migrant workers as they are still trying to get home in one way or the other. Hungry, thirsty, exhausted, out of a job, out of money, with actually no certainty on when they will get a train or a bus to go back home. Now, this has gone on for at least 1 month and it continues. But in the last 1 month, many thousands, lakhs of them have actually also managed to get home. There is a massive reverse migration, a massive exodus of the migrants that's taking place from the cities and manufacturing hubs where they were working or farming sector hubs where they were working back to their home states. Now, while this is what they needed to do at this point of time, it will have a larger impact on our economy, on our businesses. Because these hubs where the migrants who worked were completely dependent on them, whether it's the construction, the manufacturing, the bricking, the agriculture, be it, name any sector, all dependent on these workers. And as they move back, we are also lifting the restrictions on our lockdown. And these industries, these businesses are beginning their work. But they can't beyond a certain point because they don't have workers. Just how grave is this problem? What could possibly be the labor shortage and what will be the impact on the economy? That's a part of the entire piece that we've not looked at. We've spoken about the migrants going back home. How will we ensure they get a job there? How do we ensure they get food there? They're able to live there, earn some money. But what happens in these centers where they were working earlier? What happens to those businesses? Now, before I go across to our panelists, I want to bring you a report that we actually got from Tamil Nadu. Now, this is an area where 17 industries in and around that area on the outskirts of Chennai function. 2 months after the lockdown, as they now begin to revive their business, they are staring at a massive problem, which is the availability of labor. The workers have already gone home. The industries fear lack of order for the next 90 days. Here is a detailed report that Pramod actually got for us, where they're telling us that the financial package isn't enough, the labor is gone, and there isn't enough demand in the market. Take a look.
Are able to do the work only which were left on March prior to lockdown period. So we are about to complete that works only. But new orders and all, there is no chance. We've been following up with our people, means our suppliers or vendors, but yet to receive orders. Ours is basically indulged with migration workers. Nearly 60% they were there. Now everybody is at their home. They've gone back.
Since 25th of May, Tamil Nadu government has allowed the work in industrial estates. In and around Chennai, we have 17 industrial estates that are definitely an economic backbone. But here right now, only 25% workforce is allowed. Yet, the MSME entrepreneurs have a lot of confusion, questions, and they are waiting towards getting future orders and the workforce back. In fact, in this, sector alone, where we are standing currently, of the 120 people, 80 people were migrant workers, and people are the entire area is waiting for their return because they were skilled workers, documented migrant laborers. The MSME entrepreneurs very clearly mentioned that they are yes, several packages have been announced, but how fruitful are they going to be? That's the biggest question. In fact, they also have suggestions for the government. Why not the government encourage the migrant labor population to come back once again, assuring them work, and also why not the government provide a certain package from the GST which could be collected after a certain amount of time, even with interest, because for the next 90 days there is going to be a definite dark age when it comes to industry and manufacturing sector, waiting for orders and waiting for funds. So these are the kind of requests that have been placed, requests placed by the MSME entrepreneurs to actually bring back the work back in order. Imagine they have said that just to attain the normalcy itself, it will take a minimum of 2 years, and they are expecting extreme amount of support, and things that will actually turn fruitful on ground. With camera person Vijay Shekhar, Pramod Madhav for Mirror Now.
Well, let's also get you a story from Mumbai, and from the Mumbai's famous Zaveri Bazaar, famous for its jewelry that's sold over there. it now wears a completely deserted look. Now, not just that, as we look at the possibility of slowly more relaxation coming in, even in the city of Mumbai, people here tell our reporter that it's highly unlikely that their business will pick up. Why is that? Because their workers have left and gone home. Take a look.
These buildings that you see house a lot of gold jewelry workers from West Bengal. And for the past 3-4 days, we have been seeing these buses coming from West Bengal. You can see each of them has a West Bengal number plate. They have come from various places in West Bengal to take back these migrants. The trains have not been working to West Bengal, and the flights are actually also impacted. It's only today that the flights have started. Kolkata airport has been started, and that is why these migrants found a way themselves. They have somehow managed to get these buses to come all the way from Bengal and then to transport them back to Bengal. आपने ये बस में जाने के लिए कितने पैसे दिए और ये बस आपने अरेंज कैसे की?
एक्चुअली मैं कोलकाता से आया हूँ, बस लेकर आया हूँ मैंने।
हाँ।
और मेरा फ्रेंड लोग यहाँ पर रहते हैं, उसको रहने लेके नहीं आया हूँ।
अच्छा।
ट्रेन में 2 बार टिकट में गया था टिकट लेने के लिए, बुलाया भी था, लेकिन हम लोग का नंबर देने के बाद भी वो लोग बोला है कि नहीं गाड़ी नहीं है, फुल हो गया। अच्छा। इसलिए वापस कर दिया। 2 बार 2 चक्कर मार चुका हूँ ट्रेन के लिए, नहीं हो पाया, इसलिए फिर बस मंगाया।
तो आप लोग कितने लोगों ने मिलके ये बस मंगाई?
ये हम लोग का सेट मंगाया।
हाँ।
वो
30 लोग हैं।
30 लोग है और सेट ने मंगाया।
सेट ने मंगाया?
हाँ, 2-3 सेट मिला के मंगाया।
2-3 सेट।
मैं शिखर चंद जैन, वाइस प्रेसिडेंट हिंदुस्तान चैम्बर ऑफ कॉमर्स। अभी स्थिति ये है कि यहाँ पर कोई भी लोग यहाँ पर नहीं रह गए। लगभग रोज 25 से 30 बस तो पश्चिम बंगाल की जा रही है, वेस्ट बंगाल की। सारे बंगाली कारीगर जितने भी थे वो सारे जा चुके हैं। इसके अलावा सारे राजस्थानी वर्कर्स थे, उत्तर प्रदेश, बिहार वगैरह के सारे वर्कर्स चले गए। अब यहाँ पर कोई नहीं बचा है।
जब अगर मार्केट खुलेगा भी तो भी यहाँ पे सोने का काम हो नहीं पाएगा।
इम्पॉसिबल है, असंभव बात है। जब कारीगरी नहीं तो हो कैसे सकेगा? असंभव बात है ये। भोजन की यहाँ कोई कमी नहीं है। हमारी बहुत सारी संस्थाएं यहाँ भोजन दे रही है और व्यक्तिगत मालिक भी सबको भोजन की व्यवस्था कर रहे हैं, लेकिन कारीगर लोग रहना ही नहीं चाहते, वर्कर्स रहना नहीं चाहते। आप करेंगे क्या?
Human cost of the Shramik trains not being able to run to West Bengal and the flights also not being there is this 8,000 to 10,000 rupees being paid by each migrant going to West Bengal from here, Zaveri Bazaar to West Bengal, and all of them trying to pool in their resources and get these buses to come all the way. So these buses are undertaking a journey of at least 5 to 6 days. They come from there to here in 3 days, then they rest for a day, and then they take these migrants and go back to West Bengal.
Imagine. Such is their desperation, they are actually calling for buses from West Bengal so that people can be picked up here and taken back to their home state. But the impact of that will also be that when businesses are given the opportunity to open up in the city of Mumbai, they are going to struggle. Now, what does it really mean in the larger sense? I've got some industry representatives joining us right now. Rahul Mehta, President for the Clothes Manufacturers Association of India, is with us this evening. Mr. Kumar Jain, President for the Indian Bullion and Jeweler Association, joins us this evening from Mumbai. Sandeep Parekh, Vice President for the Thane Small Scale Industries Association, also the Vice President of the Chamber for Small Industry Association, and Amar Tulsian, Co-Chairman for FICCI UP Council, with us this evening. Let's start with you, Mr. Rahul Mehta. Give us a sense of what happens to your industry, to your segment. What percentage of the workers don't belong to that area and now have already gone back home or in the process of going back home?
Well, I think the total employment in the garment industry, which includes both the export segment and the domestic segment, would be close to around 12 million. And out of this, our estimate is approximately 50% are migrant laborers, 50 to 55%. So you're talking in terms of, on an all India basis, approximately 6 million workers who are migrating. Now, our belief is that roughly 50 to 60% of this number have gone back to their villages or hometowns. So that is going to be the shortage of the workers within the major production centers, which are Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Ludhiana, etc. Now, my belief is that first of all, the garment manufacturing is not likely to start for another month or month and a half, essentially because our major selling points, the retail, is not yet opened. And this is the irony that whilst everybody is talking about the package support of to MSMEs and to manufacturing, nobody is realizing that unless retail opens, manufacturing packages will not have any meaning. So I believe that at least for the next 2 to 3 months, the manufacturers may not feel the kind of pain or the kind of pressure of the worker shortage because they would not be employing or they would not be producing at their full capacity. I would imagine that they would not be doing more than 50 to 60% of their production capacity, not just because of the non-availability of labor, but also because of the lack of orders. But the real pain, I believe, will come after the festival season is over. See, migrant labor has now gone back. First of all, they've had a harrowing time in their major cities like Bombay or Delhi or whatever. They've had a horrible time going back to their villages. Then there they will find that the lifestyle is probably not as bad as it was when they migrated. The Narega revenues and salaries have gone up. The lifestyle has become a little better in the villages. And they might just decide it's not worthwhile going back to the hellhole that they had put themselves into the slum areas, etc., in the major cities. So not all of these people might want to come back. And certainly their families are not going to allow them to come back till normalcy returns, which is not earlier than perhaps October or November. So that's when the real pain will start. And I believe that the garment industry is going to be hit very badly, particularly in certain work categories, like for example, the pressmen. For whatever reason, 90% of the pressmen across the country are from UP. Why, how that developed, I don't know, perhaps historical reasons. But certain categories like these are going to be facing tremendous shortages. So I expect A, migrant labor not to come back in the same force that it was earlier. B, the labor costs are going to go up, and that's going to be very significant. And third, the production is going to go down even after the retail orders pick up. This is my assessment of the situation.
Okay, so it's interesting what you're saying, and that for some time there will be obviously some amount of impact. Yes, and you are right, Mr. Rahul Mehta, that these people have suffered a lot in the cities where they were, and that's going to scar them for a while. So normally you would see them going back home for a harvest season and coming back after a month or two. We don't know if that will happen. What is your view, Mr. Sandeep Parekh? How many people from your area have already left? If tomorrow or by 1st June or even mid-June, if the government decides to allow more industries to open up and work to begin, will you be able to get the labor?
Yeah, as per my statistics received 2 days back, from Thane district itself, 8.5 lakhs of workers have left. This is all on official data. Whoever has left unofficially on their own, still we don't know. So let us put it 50%. So about 10 to 12 lakhs workers have already left from Thane. And of course, all over Maharashtra, if you see, a lot of workers have left for their native places. The basic thing what we have seen, because a lot of industries have started who are into essential and supply chain to essential or even continuous industry, but whenever they started, they were shocked to see that more than 50% of their workers are not reporting, though the lot of incentive was probably given to the workers to stay back. But I think the tremendous problem just now is the fear factor in the workers, as their family is calling them back home. They have only one statement to say, that we want to go back home. They were waiting for these transportations from the government to start so that they can safely reach home. Also, there is a harvest time in their own villages. And of course, the local incentives are being offered by the local states. So they are also probably waiting and watching that the local, how the local states are going to give them the incentives and whether they should come back or not. But my guess is that at least till Diwali, less than 50% will return up to Diwali. After Diwali also, how balance 50%, how many of them will return? I have no idea. At present, the businesses are the supply chain issue has come up, and even if you want to work, there is a problem with the supply chain. Your vendors are not working. Most of the industries in our area are engineering industry, and they are heavily labor oriented. And because of this, and they have to work in a team. So even in a team, if one of the team members go, the other team remains idle. So it's going to be a big challenge, and it looks very scary, at least for the next 6 months, for anything to come online.
6 months you are saying for anything to come back online, supply chain issues, and it's interesting you're saying exactly what Mr. Rahul Mehta also said, that these people perhaps will not come back at least until Diwali. So until October at least they're not going to come back. That's what we have to brace ourselves for. And of course the fact of the matter also is that it could lead to a massive change in the way we've been functioning all this while. Mr. Amar Tulsian, what is your own sense? The fact that they've gone through so much of pain and struggle, they've been scarred in a really bad way, will that delay their return? Even if they don't get a job back home, will they come back to these states?
Well, yes, definitely there is going to be a challenge for the migrant workers who don't get work at home, but there's so much panic that they really don't intend to be back very soon. So what Mr. Parekh and Mr. Mehta also said, so they'll take some time, like 3 to 6 months, to get back to normalcy and get back to their own place of work where they were already working. And what we really see that there's a shortage of essential items in the pipeline. So we are short of the essential goods. The supply chain is empty now. And especially the industries manufacturing the essential items really need to operate very fast to maintain the gap. But the labor shortage is a big challenge now, and definitely government needs to address that in a very different manner, that how really we can really get these workers back, because still we are seeing that the workers are not staying and they are just still moving out to their native places. So that is a big challenge, and even it's a continuous process. So even if we have, say, out of 100 workers, we have 80 workers to work, but the rest 20 workers don't complete the chain in the particular industry. So for that, we cannot train the existing laborers that we have in that particular geography. So definitely industries are facing a big challenge to operate and really deliver what is the need of time at this hour.
Yes, in fact, that's another interesting point. And Mr. Kumar Jain, maybe you can also comment on that. The fact that while you can look to locally source workers, locally source your labor, in many industries, that will not help, because you need a specific skill. They need to be trained in a certain way, skilled in a certain manner. And this quickly, it perhaps won't be possible for you and you all to find that kind of skilled labor locally.
See, basically, Javeri Bazaar is such an area. It is 200 years old area, and basically, it has become a big hub of Asia's biggest. Around 7 to 8 lakhs of goldsmiths are working all in small offices, which are around in terms of 50,000 offices are there, where manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers, at the same time, jewelry industry is a wide industry. It consists of all pearls, beads, kundan, vilandi, and such a kind of various varieties are there. So for that, it has become a big hub. Around every day there are 10 lakhs of the people come to this area and goes back. So looking all this, nowadays around just 40 to 50,000 goldsmiths are left behind. So अब जो प्रॉब्लम आया है, इसका प्रॉब्लम मेन आने की वजह से कोविड-19 का इनको भय फैल गया है. अब वो वहीं पे भी, जहां से हमारे यहाँ पे जो जवेरी बाजार की बात करें तो दिल्ली से भी कारीगर है, गुजरात से भी कारीगर है, राजस्थान से भी कारीगर है और ज्यादा करके बंगाली कारीगर ज्यादा है, क्योंकि जो शिल्प कला है, हस्तकला है, वो बंगाली कारीगर लोग बराबर बैठ के उस पर काम करते हैं। लेकिन अब जो प्रॉब्लम आया है उसकी वजह से हम लोग वहां सब प्रोवाइड कर रहे थे। हमारी जितनी भी वहां संस्थाएं, बड़ी बड़ी संस्थाएं, सब लोगों ने साथ में कंबाइन करके वहां से फंड खड़ा किया, पैसा जमा किया और उन लोगों को खाने पीने की व्यवस्था की और भी उनको जो सुविधा चाहिए थी सब प्रोवाइड की। लेकिन अब उनमें एक प्रकार का भय बैठ गया है और ये भय बैठ गया कि हमको हमारे को मौत को फेस करना, तो वो चाहते कि हम यहाँ क्यों जाए, हम हमारे परिवार के पास जाएंगे, वहां रहेंगे। तो इसकी वजह से जितने भी कारीगर थे 7 से 8 लाख, मैं समझता हूँ 10 लाख कारीगर होंगे शायद, या उससे भी ज्यादा होंगे, अब सब चल बसे और 50,000 से 40,000 कारीगर अभी भी है। तो डेफिनेटली आने वाले समय में उनको बुलाने के लिए कहीं ना कहीं उनका रास्ता देखना पड़ेगा। अगर हम तो या तो उनको लेबर चार्जेस बढ़ा के देवे, उनको किसी तरह से, या उनको रहने की तो ऑलरेडी जगह है, ये काम करते हैं। यहाँ पे भी जो कारीगर बचे 40-50,000 वो के बॉस है और बॉस के अंडर में वो लोग काम करते हैं। जैसे एक कारखाना है अराउंड 200 स्क्वायर फीट का एरिया है, तो उसमें 10 बाकड़े हैं, एक पॉलिश वाला है, एक तार पाटे वाला, इस तरह से अलग अलग लोग जो रहते थे। लेकिन लोगों के सबके दिमाग में एक डर बैठ गया है और डर की वजह से उन्होंने सब जाने के लिए मतलब हमारी सपोर्ट से ही वो जा रहे हैं। हम लोगों ने पैसे जमा किए, वो जो है उनमें से उनके लिए बस मंगवा रहे हैं, उनको भेज रहे हैं कि भाई एक बार जावे गांव, अपने परिवार से मिले, उनको सेटिस्फेक्शन होगा। लेकिन वहां भी आज इस समय इतना बड़ा साइक्लोन आया हुआ है, वहां पे भी खाने पीने की भी प्रॉब्लम है, तो उनका जाना ही गलत था। लेकिन अब गए हैं, अब सरकार ने भी आज, हाई कोर्ट ने भी डायरेक्शन दिया है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आज डायरेक्शन दिया कि भाई जो माइग्रेंट्स है उनको खाने पीने की, जाने की, रहने की सब व्यवस्था की जाए। ये अच्छी बात है, लेकिन अब सवाल ये कि काम कैसे शुरू होगा। तो काम शुरू होने के लिए मेरे ख्याल से अभी तक 2-2.5 महीने और लग जाएंगे, लेकिन इसके साथ साथ काम जब शुरू होगा तो अच्छा होगा। जहां तक सोने के गोल्ड का सवाल है, सोना आज 48,000 के पार आ चुका है, तो डेफिनेटली उसके हिसाब से उनको लेबर मिलेगी, लेबर भी बढ़ा के हम देंगे। लेकिन सवाल ये कि अब उनको लाना चाहिए, तो सरकार को चाहिए कि उनको लाने की भी व्यवस्था की जाए। ऐसा हमने जब चेक किया, कुछ कारीगर आना चाहते थे तो वहां से उनको परमिशन नहीं मिली है कि भाई नहीं, परमिशन नहीं देंगे, या उनको कुछ सिस्टम में जाना पड़े, और वो तो बेचारे पढ़े लिखे नहीं, अनपढ़ है, वो कहाँ वो सिस्टम में जा पाएंगे। उनको तो जो आता है, हम यहाँ से 7 दिन का काम देते हैं, 7 दिन के शाम को शनिवार को आते हैं, हमारे से लेबर लेते हैं और लेबर से अपना खाना पीना चलाते हैं, और उसमें से जो कुछ पैसा बचता है वो अपने गांवों में भेजते हैं। तो ये सिस्टम में चलते हुए इन कारीगर को वापस लाने के बहुत समय तो लंबा लगेगा, लेकिन आएगा तो भी मैं समझता हूँ काम अच्छा होगा। एंड गोइंग टू, वी होप इट्स गोइंग टू गो गुड, बिकॉज गोल्ड इज गोइंग अप। एंड आज की तारीख में हिंदुस्तान में ऐसी एनालिसिस है, कुछ मैंने आर्टिकल भी पढ़े थे कि सोने में जो महिलाएं हमारी बहनें हैं, अपनी सेविंग से 50 जो भी सेव करती है उसका सेविंग से डायरेक्ट गोल्ड लेती है कि भी वो उनको सुख दुख में काम आवे। तो ये ट्रेंड ज्वेलरी का है, वर्षों से चला आ रहा है और आने वाले समय भी चलेगा, इसमें कोई दो मत नहीं है। काम डेफिनेटली होगा, लेकिन थोड़ा अब जो इस समय आया है इसके साथ हम अधीन हो गए।
मार्केट ट्रेंड अलग चीज है मिस्टर जैन, पर अभी जो इम्पैक्ट होगा अगले 6 महीने 1 साल, उसको कैसे हैंडल कर रहा है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है। इनफैक्ट मिस्टर राहुल मेहता, इफ आई कैन कम टू यू ऑन दैट एस्पेक्ट, if we say for 6 months it is going to be difficult to get the migrants back to these industries, then what is the possible impact, or do you think the impact on the business will be lesser, on the economy will be lesser, simply because there isn't any demand for the products either? आप manufacture भी किसके लिए करेंगे, खरीद कौन रहा है?
Which is why I mentioned that in the garment industry, the first 2-3 months are not going to be as painful for the businesses as could have been, because there is really no orders with the manufacturers. There is no business to be manufacturing against. So I don't think that is likely to happen, but the pain will start, as I said, after the 3 to 4 months. But what I am looking at is on a slightly longer and a slightly more macro basis. You know, whenever one studied BCom or commerce or whatever, one of the first things that you learned was that you start your manufacturing either close to where your raw materials are or where your consumers are. I think at least as far as the garment industry is concerned, we will have to add a third criteria, which is start your manufacturing where the labor is. because you can transport raw materials today. There are efficient logistics and transportation systems. You can reach your goods to your consumers at a certain cost, but it's very easy, very possible. But labor is going to be very much more difficult. So probably the factories will now have to shift. It will be a very major socio-demographic shift. The factories will have to shift towards where the labor is available, so that the labor will not find it so difficult to migrate. They will not have a traumatic experience again. They will not be uprooted from their homelands and from their families. I think that is, and we have some of the larger factories have very successfully moved to areas like Telangana, to UP, to Jharkhand, to Gujarat. So I think that is going to be a movement that can be the only savior for the industry, and especially because the cost of manufacturing in major cities is becoming more and more expensive. And if you shift to these interiors where the labor is actually coming from, perhaps you'll be able to reduce your manufacturing cost also, even in spite of the transportation cost that you will add on. So I see this shift happening, at least as far as our industry is concerned.
Okay. Well, I'm completely out of time, but I'm going to thank all of the panelists for joining us right now and giving us insights into how they see the migrant exodus, or reverse migration if you want to call it, really impact businesses and industries as India begins to lift restrictions of the lockdown and gradually revive its industries. In many of the sectors, viewers, there will be an impact, especially which are hugely dependent on people from outside the states. In some sectors, the impact of the next 2-3 months will not be that bad, simply because they aren't manufacturing enough, because you and I are not buying enough, and there isn't any demand. So there are multiple layers to this. But at some point, the governments will have to look into the issue of how to get the migrant laborer also back. Come up with more incentives to tell them that you can come back to these jobs in the cities. There are jobs for you that will pay you better. We will take care of you better. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. So if there are businesses expecting that by June, if the trains begin, these migrants will come back home, that's highly unlikely at this point. That's what the experts are also telling us. Completely out of time on this conversation. On the other side, we've got an exclusive investigation lined up for you. Stay with me. Viewers, as promised, here is an investigation we carried out in the city of Delhi. Now remember, viewers, last night we brought you details of a reality check that we did in Mumbai about availability of beds. If you are a person looking for a bed in a hospital in Mumbai, the struggle will be long and difficult. Similarly, in Delhi, the system of helpline numbers has now been implemented. But if you are a person who needs help with a COVID case and you need to try this number, well, it's not going to be easy at all. In fact, our reporter Alok first called up the central helpline number, who gave him a specific number for the Delhi government helpline, then called on those numbers. 2 days, 30 calls made, only 3 of them got answered. Rest, all of the time, the lines were completely busy. There were 10 different phone numbers that he tried. He tried on day 1 for half hour, on day 2 for 90 minutes, and for most of it, the lines were completely busy. Now, is this what a person is supposed to go through in times of an emergency, in times of help that is needed because somebody near and dear to them is sick and maybe suffering from COVID? Listen to this. Look at the sequence. These are several of the calls that he made, and every time he got an engaged tone. Take a look, and then we'll bring in Alok.
आपके द्वारा डायल किया गया नंबर अभी व्यस्त है. कृपया कुछ समय पश्चात प्रयास करें. The number you have dialed is currently busy. Please try later. नहीं, क्योंकि डायल किया गया नंबर किसी अन्य कॉल में व्यस्त है. Please stay on the line as the dialed number is busy on another call. Please stay on the line as the dialed number is busy on another call. कृपया लाइन पर बने कुछ समय बाद डायल करें. कॉल में व्यस्त है. the line as the dial number is busy on another call. आपके द्वारा डायल किया गया नंबर अभी व्यस्त है। कृपया कुछ समय पश्चात प्रयास करें। The number you have dialed is currently busy. Please try later. डायल किया गया नंबर अभी व्यस्त है। कृपया कुछ समय पश्चात प्रयास करें। The number you have dialed is currently busy. Please try later.
That is what Alok went through every time he dialed the helpline number. In fact, he's joining us right now. Alok, first in the evening you tried for about half an hour, couldn't get through, and then the next morning. Take us through the detailed sequence of events. How many numbers? Who told you what? Take us through the details.
So, Tanvi, that the reason of doing this fact check was two. That the one is that many complaints were coming from various parts of Delhi that the people who want to go to the hospital, who want to see the doctors, they are not able to reach to these helpline numbers properly. And a second aspect is that Delhi already Delhi has opened, and in coming days more things will be resumed. So number of cases will definitely be increased. Today, in fact, more than 1,000 cases have reported. Have new COVID cases has come in one day, and as of now, 16,000 cases have already reached. So we all know that in coming days the problem will be increasing. So we wanted to check whether the Delhi government is prepared for that or not, because Delhi government is claiming that they are already prepared and they are all set to go with the coming days. But here we found out that this is the helpline numbers, and in these helpline numbers, the people, if he is under depression, if he under any kind of distress, his first option will to go with these helpline numbers. Yesterday I made the call for around half an hour. There are two numbers of the Delhi government's landline numbers. No response came for at least 15 times. I made the call. Today, more than 1.5 hours, I made the calls on other 8 numbers. Only two numbers got responded, and people talked to me, but other 8 numbers were kept staying busy. So this is I had to face. So you can clearly get a sense that those people who are completely on distress and they want to reach to the hospital, they want to see the doctors, how much problem they would be facing because these helpline numbers are not at all properly working in Delhi.
Okay, and Alok, what I wanted you to highlight, as you mentioned some of the details about the cases in Delhi, is also the fact that the Delhi government has repeatedly sought lifting of restrictions, claiming that they're ready with the healthcare infrastructure, that they've built enough hospitals, they've built enough beds, they have enough ventilators, they expect a spike in the cases as business resumes and normal life resumes, but they're ready to handle it. Now, isn't the helpline part of that entire system? Isn't that the first place that the people are supposed to go if they need any help with COVID? What is the point of this helpline number?
Yes, that is what I am saying. In fact, when I called and the person who picked my call, he told me that you have to. When I told him that somebody who is near to me, he want to go to the hospital because he's showing symptoms. So he just advised me to go to the nearby hospital and which whatever the doctor will say, you have to do that. So what is the use of this helpline? That if the person is just advising me to go to the nearby clinic, so what is the use of that helpline? So this is what we are pointing out. So if you have set up helpline, but these helplines, although most of the time these helplines are busy, and if the person picks up, he just gives the advice that to go to the hospital and see the doctor. So what is the purpose of this helpline? If and what the government is again and again saying that they are prepared for the number of cases. If the number of cases increase in Delhi, they are all set and all prepared. So what purpose is solving with these helpline numbers? Although these are 10 helpline numbers, a few days ago, Delhi government also announced a WhatsApp number. But in that WhatsApp number, that also I checked, but that WhatsApp number is also not properly working. I haven't got the response on that WhatsApp number. And in fact, the last scene is showing on that WhatsApp number of Saturday. So last Saturday, somebody stopped that messages, whosoever is setting, but but it means that they are not responding at the same time. So this is what the government preparation, that the Delhi government preparation.
All right.
For
Alok,
the
stay on with
COVID
me. I actually just want to also bring in Dr. Ajoy Kumar of the Aam Aadmi Party. So stay on with me, Alok. But Dr. Ajoy Kumar, the first level, the first front and first thing to go to for any Delhi citizen would be this helpline number. Now clearly we don't have enough helpline numbers. This is what Alok has found. He made calls, and as he made those calls, 13 calls on one number, constantly busy. 30 calls on the 10 helpline numbers the second day, only 3 times he got through. That isn't good, Dr. Ajoy Kumar.
No, look, Tanvi, we are not going to say that it's a good situation. We have already said it in the court also, that we are trying to add more numbers. But one of the things we understood was that people will continuously call, more people will call as the days pass, and we have Delhi Fights Corona, the website where there's a WhatsApp number where you can reach us. So we understand, we recognize it. So ideally, if you can't get through the helpline, we also urge the citizens to try us on the WhatsApp. And you'll see that we'll be adding those numbers, large number of numbers. We are we are aware of the problem, because we ourselves also said that in the court, that listen, we know that the loads are coming in, but our request to your channel is, people exhibiting symptoms should be the people who should be calling. Obviously, reporters should check whether the system works. There's no debate on that. We are not saying that you shouldn't check to make sure that the system is working or not. But by and large, those numbers should be engaged by people, because we would add much more lines and the call center will become larger in terms of handling it. But we still would maybe, we not be able to handle everybody who wants to call into the call center. In case those calls are not able to reach through, then we would request the people to get through the Delhi Fights Corona website and ping us on the WhatsApp, because we'll respond to you. We'll get back to you on that as soon as possible. Those are challenges we have recognized it, we will fix it.
No, but how long, Dr. Ajoy Kumar, will it take for this to be fixed? Because your government came out, even before lockdown 4.0 was announced, to say we are ready, we've built a healthcare infrastructure, let's lift the restrictions. Now, while I agree with you, that's what should be done and the healthcare infra should be ready. But if the helpline numbers aren't ready, then, what can be said about the rest?
No, the rest, I think you can say much more, Tanvi, because we got over 5,000 beds, and only I think around 45% are occupied. Rest of the beds are vacant still. On ventilator front, we have approximately 300 plus ventilators, and only 30 or 10% is occupied. So we are going to create capacity. We are learning lessons in terms of beds and ventilators, and if necessary, get the private sector hospitals to be prepared. Obviously, the private sector should be ready. We should start working on that aspect before. Right now, we are able to handle it, but there is we need to be ready for, in case of have a plan B for emergencies. On the helpline, I can assure you we are on the job, and it should take us a few days to get it fixed totally. We are going to add. So it's not. It's the call diversion. It's not the number of numbers has to be increased. Obviously, the call center numbers who pick up the call has to be increased. And we will make sure that resolution happens very quickly. We have already assured it in the court, Tanvi. So we will do it over the next few days. I think you'll see a significant improvement on that.
Yes, and because you mentioned this, Dr. Ajoy Kumar, I just want to point this out to you. The fact of the matter is that Alok also did send a message on that WhatsApp number that you were mentioning. He sent that message at 2:50 today. He's yet to get a response on it. In fact, I don't know if the last seen actually functions on that number, but as far as the last seen number is concerned, on that WhatsApp number that the Delhi government has set up, it said Saturday 11:27 p.m. So I'm not too sure if that's functional either right now. You may want to check that.
No, we'll definitely check it. Look, Tanvi, no debate. You have done it, you have verified it. If there are gaps in it, we need to fix it. I'll definitely pass on the message immediately after the show. and we'll make sure that we respond. We have a better terms of more what you call desk operating in the call center, so that maximum number of calls will be addressed. So that's an improvement we need to make, and we recognize that.
What is the a number of additional beds, extra beds and ventilators that we have and are in the process of adding, Dr. Ajoy Kumar?
So we have over 5,000 beds now exclusively, and we have approximately 50% occupied, close to 45%. So we have around 2,500 beds plus Tanvi which are vacant. That's the dashboard which is available. And out of the 300 odd ventilators, we have around 28 or so on ventilators. So we have over 90% of the ventilator capacity also still available. But we need to keep looking at the trends and then seeing where we can increase the capacity so that we are ready in case there is, God forbid if there's any kind of crisis. But in case that is, then we need to look at the other sources. Be prepared to, co-opt private hospitals and their facilities under the government, to tide over the crisis. But right now we have over 90%.
Yes, because Mumbai is doing that now. We are way behind the curve here in Mumbai. We are roping in private hospitals and private hospital beds now when we've already run out of beds, several weeks ago. And so that's something that the big cities have to watch out for. The top 10 cities need to get, prepare for a possibility of a spike in cases in the, in the next couple of weeks as we lift our restrictions and our lockdown rules, and there will be more of interaction. Ajoy Kumar, I'm taking your word on the fact that this problem about helpless helplines will be resolved in the very soon in the coming few days, and we're going to connect with you after that to see what the status is, because it's not, it's not going to be helpful if you have vacant beds but people can't get through the helpline number to get that help from the government. 10 different numbers that we tried, constantly busy. Out of the over 30 calls that Alok made, only 3 times did he manage to get through these numbers. But Dr. Ajoy Kumar, thank you so much for joining us and really, taking our questions as far as this story is concerned. Viewers, this is the kind of reality check we will continue to do. Yesterday it was Mumbai, today it's Delhi, and city after city we will bring you these reports, because it is the duty of the government to ensure that our healthcare infrastructure is ready to take on whatever comes its way in the coming months. And if we are failing today, then imagine what will happen tomorrow. We've had 2 months of lockdown time to do this preparation. There should be no excuse with any government when it comes to inefficient or overburdened healthcare infrastructure. Well, let's move on to the other big conversation point. And as you know, here on Mirror Now, we've been focusing on how to realign your lives, how to readjust to this new norm, which is living with a virus, living with coronavirus in 2020. Because the virus isn't going away. The lockdown may get lifted in many different forms, but we still have to find a way of living with this virus without a vaccine or a drug available, at least for this year. Now, in many cases, people will have to travel. People will have to take urgent travel or travel due to unavoidable work or family reasons. It's already happening. Trains have begun, flights have begun in a limited fashion. How do we ensure that when we travel, we do it safely? We minimize our exposure. Of course, we can't completely rule out at any given point, and that's now a reality we have to get used to. But how do we minimize it? To help us understand this, we've got a very special guest joining us this evening, Dr. Paloma Beamer. She's the Associate Professor of Public Health at the University of Arizona and the President of the International Society of Exposure Science, who's joining us right now. A big expert, in this specific field. It's Dr. Paloma Beamer. Thank you so much for speaking with us and to the viewers of Mirror Now. This is just the basic question. Now, as we begin to look at a possibility of travel, flights are starting, trains have begun, people will start stepping out of their homes. How do we ensure that we minimize our risks?
Well, I think, you still need to think about whether or not you are actually need to travel, or if there's something else you can do instead, because the first thing you want to do is reduce and eliminate your risk as much as possible. The next thing you might want to think about is, how do you want to travel? You want to travel in a manner that allows you to have the most control of your exposure at any point in time. And if you can drive, I would do that. But if you need to take a plane or a train or a bus, think about ways to minimize your risk or exposure. The first thing you want to think about is who's going to be within that 2-meter distance around you. You want to think about, who's going to be within that space. I know that can be difficult at times to minimize, but for example, if you can sit in a window seat, that will reduce the number of people you're exposed to on the plane. And then when you're standing in line or any of these other places, you want to think about how can you reduce the number of people you come into contact with, because it's really through droplets and aerosols that we think the primary exposure is occurring. So reducing the number of people you're sharing the air with. You also want to think about the surfaces you're touching, and if you're able to wash your hands frequently, use hand sanitizer or hand wipes, that would be great as well to wipe down surfaces before you use them. If you're not able to access those items, it can be really difficult, even here in the United States, where we think of being able to access anything whenever we want it. We are learning to adapt that's not possible. You might be able to make some sort of solution with bleach, if you're able to get bleach or some other disinfectant, and use a rag and carry that, if possible, in a plastic bag with you while you travel so that you still can disinfect surfaces that you come into contact with. Another thing you might want to do is think about how to minimize the contact of your personal belongings with other objects, such as your identification or your passport. How can you keep that inside some sort of container, like a plastic bag or something, so after somebody else touches it, you can put it back in that container and not be exposing your other personal belongings to things on it.
All right. Of course, the fact of the matter is that at least for this entire year, if not longer, we won't have a solution. And, there will always be this risk every time we step out of our homes, whether, in some cases people have to go to work, just have to go and shop something urgent, or in our cases of travel. But are we looking at a possibility then, Dr. Beamer, where at least for children, schools don't reopen, because it's very difficult to explain and restrict the movement of children, even in schools. So then what happens to that aspect?
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the hardest things. I'm a mother. I have a 1-year-old and a 10-year-old. And so I've dealt with both the school-age child and the younger child. And I'm working full-time and trying to understand how to minimize that aspect. School's actually out for summer here in Arizona. And so what do we do with children that want to go out and play and be with their friends and keep them busy? And the advice of my pediatrician was to keep them home as much as I can this summer, so the hope that we don't have new spikes in the fall and they can go back to school. But already here in Arizona, we're talking about having, maybe the kids would have a hybrid where they only go to school a certain number of days so that less kids are in the classroom at one time. If maybe they would be just going in the morning or in the afternoon. I think we're exploring all those options as we're all getting used to dealing with these situations. But it's important, as you look through each of these scenarios, to think about the hierarchy of controls. It's a mechanism, a framework that we use quite a bit in occupational health, but can apply to all these situations. Is there something you can do to eliminate your risk? Is the first thing you want to look at. And that's why we're staying home. It helps reduce our risk of going out. Is there something you can do to substitute? So that's where I would consider driving instead of flying, if possible. Similar with the children, are there things they can do so that they're not as high a risk? Finally, you want to think about, are there engineering controls or ways to isolate the exposures as close as possible to the source? So that's why we're all wearing face masks now, because by having potentially infectious people wear that's reducing everyone's exposure, because we're trying to stop it as close as possible to the source. And then we want to think, and that will probably be part of what they use for our children, is to have them wear face masks for the ones that are old enough to. Then we want to think about what are other practices we can take, administrative practices that we can take to change how we do things to reduce our risk. And that's where the use of hand sanitizer, hand washing, cleaning, disinfection, all those practices come into place. And our very last line that we want to rely on is our use of personal protective equipment, which really should be reserved for those who are on the front lines that need to wear respirators and face shields and those sorts of things. But if we think about things in that hierarchy, as we start trying to do each of our the things in our lives, we can start thinking about how to minimize our risk and use that framework to reduce it. I mean, there will always be a risk when we get in a car. There will always be a risk when we get on a plane or get on a train. But we do take precautions already. We put on a seatbelt if we can. We drive at lower speed limits. We make sure people take tests to get a driver's license. These are the sorts of things we should be thinking about as we start moving forward in a world in a post, coronavirus pandemic.
Okay, so that's very interesting, and those are some of the precautions that we can take. Of course, like you said, don't avoid travel, and if you have to travel, maybe take your own transport. In countries like India, that kind of a access to transport is actually limited to very small percentage of the population. Even now, most of us depend on public transport in the big cities, in smaller towns as well. And so I think the challenge will also be bigger for countries like India with a high density population, because the minute you open up the public transport, that risk will increase by itself. But Dr. Beamer, thank you so much for speaking with us today and sharing your own expertise and insights into this big aspect completely. Remember this, viewers, we've started our flights just this week. Starting Monday, air travel was allowed in our country only in limited manner, but already we've got about 5 to 6 cases of people who are on these flights and then screened and tested and emerged positive. Now, people who travel with them in those flights are all being informed about it. Now, that's a risk you have to factor in. If you're going to be taking the flight or at some point you will be taking the train, this is a risk you have to factor in and then step out. It's about mentally preparing yourself so that you know the number of precautions that you should be taking, so that you know that you shouldn't be touching any surfaces, you should be maintaining your distance. Don't forget social distancing at any given point of time. Don't touch surfaces wherever it's not required. Sanitize and regularly wash your hands. Wear a mask, wear gloves, things that are actually in your control. Beyond that, cannot completely get rid of the risk of being exposed to coronavirus, something that we have to learn to live with. Well, before we wrap up this show of Urban Debate, we've just got a clarification coming in from the Karnataka government. Now, there's been huge amount of confusion that the Karnataka government has actually created with its announcements that came post the cabinet briefing. They first said that they're going to ban flights completely from 5 states that have been badly impacted by coronavirus, including Maharashtra, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, and no passengers or flights will be allowed. Now they've come out with a clarification saying, well, we are not banning flights. We are only asking the center to reduce the number of flights from these states. So this is a clarification and an important clarification that's coming from the Karnataka government, the top ministers and the chief minister themselves clarifying that no, we are not imposing a blanket ban, but yes, we are asking the center to reduce the number of flights from these states which have been badly affected by coronavirus.